Well, Sharon's here with me now. Sharon, I want to start with this tweet, because it was a tweet that really ignited the firestorm. You just said this as this Markle debacle went down in the UK. You tweeted this. Piers Morgan, I'm with you. I stand by you. People forget that you're paid for your opinion and that you're just speaking your truth. What's incredible about that is you don't actually agree with my opinion. I mean, you might well have done, but you didn't say, I agree with what he's saying. You just said, he's entitled to an opinion. And for that, you end up losing your job.
Yeah, because my whole point is that you are a journalist and a celebrity. So therefore, you're paid to give your opinion. The same as I was paid to give my opinion. That's why we're there. And freedom of speech.
Fact. When it was all going down on The Talk at CBS, did you imagine in your wildest nightmare that within days you would have been fired from a show you've been on for 10 years?
Good question.
I was actually in my 11th year, and the situation, I never thought in my wildest dreams that my career after 50 years would have ended that way. I mean, what did I want my legacy to be? I was fired because I was accused of being a racist.
What was so disingenuous was their initial attack from Cheryl Underwood, your co-presenter, who I know, I've been on The Talk many times with you and with Cheryl, always very friendly.
Okay.
But that day, the mood changed, and it looked like she was deliberately coming for you for, in her eyes, endorsing a racist, me. And when you said, well, what's he said that's racist, she couldn't tell you.
Why? Why?
And eventually she explained, my refusal to believe Meghan Markle basically made me a racist.
Oh, yes, that was the whole setup, that you were a racist because you had an opinion on somebody that was of mixed race.
Come on now, dawg.
I've never known you have a racist bone in your body. I would like to think you've never felt that in me.
Never.
We are not racist people.
No.
We never judge people because of their skin colour. I've certainly never written anything about Meghan Markle because of her mixed race
skin
background.
colour, religion. You and I could give, you know.
What do you mean by that?
That's not the way we run our lives.
When you got fired, you get turfed out by the cancel culture mob. Twitter is ablaze. They're joyful, they're gleeful, they've got rid of you, they've got you out of that job, they've had you fired for having an opinion.
Yes, exactly.
What was going through your mind when the first few days after that?
It was, listen, I don't scare easily, you know that. But some of the comments that were coming through on my social media were so horrific about cutting my throat, my husband's, even the dogs.
What?
They wanted to kill my dogs. And then they started on Ozzy, on his site, and then my kids. And I just thought, this is just insanity.
See, I had the same thing.
Are you sure about that?
I went back to CBS and I said, not only can I not earn a living, but now I have to have 24-hour security because of you. And they go like, so what?
What? What the?
So your lives were being put under threat by these menacing people on social media, and you don't know who's real and who's not. Also, your career just basically ended. I mean, no one would touch you. You were toxic. You were driven out in a race storm. Therefore, you were untouchable.
What is he doing?
It was, I mean, literally untouchable. It was from, you know, everyday stuff comes in, you do this, that, and, you know, charity stuff and everything. The phone never rang. That was it. You are untouchable.
So when people say cancel culture doesn't exist, you lived through it. And you lived through it because of me. And I thought what happened to me was bad enough. What happened to you, to me, was utterly shameful. But cancel culture is real, isn't it? You become this person that no one will want to employ because suddenly you're that person.
Oh, absolutely. You are untouchable. You are an untouchable. And what makes me so mad is I'm in a blessed situation that no matter whatever happens to my career, my husband will always take care of me. But what happens to a person that, you know, say I didn't have a husband and I had kids to bring up, right? What happens to people like that are cancelled or fired because they've used the wrong term or something's taken out of context and they're fired?
Boy.
To the average person, what happens to that person?
Have you ever spoken again to Cheryl Underwood, who was your co-presenter on?
I sent her 3 texts of apologies and she never got back. And then she went on to national TV and said that I hadn't apologised.
Well, duh.
So what I did was I actually, on my social media, printed the text. And then she said, well, that's not an apology because it wasn't... I wanted a phone call, and
sorry,
she never called me.
And let me just hold one moment. What are you apologising for? I thought you had nothing to apologise for. What I'm also interested in is what happened to you later, because your life, I mean, it didn't completely fall apart because you had your family, but it was incredibly tough for you.
Yeah, right. It was tough for me, and it did affect me mentally. It honestly did, because after everything that I'd felt, all my dreams I had achieved, everything that I'd wanted to do I had achieved. And did I want my legacy for my family to be, oh, well, your Nana was on television, but everybody said she was racist, so she never went on television again. And that kind of ate me up.
What did that do to you?
It ate me up. I must have cried for 3 months.
Damn!
Really?
Never stopped crying. And my friend, Sarah Gilbert, who used to, you know Sarah.
Yeah, no, from the talk.
Right. She was the one that came up with the idea for the show and was on it.
Okay.
And she said, you need help. You've got to go somewhere. And she recommended somewhere. And then I was doing therapy and ketamine treatment.
Did you get suicidal at any stage?
Not suicidal, because I didn't want to give CBS the satisfaction. Yeah, right.
I'm so glad that we're able to sit here now talking about this. And we're going to come to why you're here and what you're going to be doing next in a moment. You're going to be doing what you do best, talking about news and current affairs and stuff in the papers and so on. I've got to ask you about the Trump interview. He's clearly hinting in my interview that he may run again. He's still popular in America.
Very popular.
And with Joe Biden being such a disaster at the moment, you could see a situation where Trump gets re-elected. Would that be a good thing, do you think, for America?
No, I don't think it would be a good thing. And the thing that frightens me is there is nobody that you could think of that would make a great president.
What do you mean by that?
So the competition is non-existent.
We're both monarchists. We love
Yes.
the royal family. How damaging is this drip, drip, drip behaviour of Meghan and Harry running a kind of rival royal family without any of the need for the duty that goes with that, but with all the money that comes their way from fleecing the royal title?
Good question.
It's just tragic that you can go and try and ruin a monarchy and, you know, what we all grew up with loving, adoring, respecting, and then every time you open your mouth, it's about your family. And the other thing I think that nobody's ever said is their children, their beautiful children, have no family.
That doesn't make sense.
They don't speak to
Never
Meghan's
seen them,
family.
yeah.
They
No.
don't speak to the royal family. These children are going to grow
Their
up.
grandfather...
No grandparents.
Their grandfather, Thomas, lives 70 miles away.
Right. Well,
He's an
there's-
hour's cab ride.
There's no grandfather, there's no aunts, there's no family. So just think of your children when you're talking about cousins and aunts
I
and
don't think they think
uncles.
about anything but themselves and the bottom line. I'm about to do something special.
Go
Sharon.
on.
I'm about to formally uncancel you. Because you're back now at Talk TV.
Thanks
the
to
same
you.
network with me. Well, I was delighted to help be part of getting you back here. How important is it to you to be back on television doing what you do best on a show called The Talk?
It's very important to me. It's something that I love. And I just, again, you know, didn't want it to end my career in such an ugly way.
And how is Ozzy? My great man. He's just one of my favourite people in the world. Been through the health wars a bit. How's he doing?
He's doing okay. He is. He sends you his love, and he's really looking forward. He's got one more operation left to do, and then he's dying to come back home.
Well,
So that was a lie.
send him my very best, and I'm now going to have the great honour,
Go
Sharon
on.
Osbourne, of officially uncancelling you to the world and restoring you to your rightful place as the Queen of the Talk. Let it roll.
Oh, we need confetti.
And when you... Fact. I want to turn briefly to the last 4 days of the Platinum Jubilee, Sharon, because aside from Boris Johnson being booed, which may well have been a tipping point for many MPs to press the button on him today with this no confidence, it was also interesting to me that the Sussexes got booed. Harry and Meghan, what did you make of that?
Well, it wasn't a total boo.
Wasn't as big as Boris?
No, nowhere near.
But very unusual for a member of the royal family to get any booing at that kind of event.
Yes,
And they did.
But it wasn't anywhere near as bad as Boris. You could still hear the cheers above the boos, put it that way.
I mean, should we read much into it? I just got the feeling they basically discovered on this particular trip that they've gone from A-list royals to C-list.
What do you mean by that?
And that's how the royal family are now going to treat them. They won't be on the balcony, they won't be at the top events, and they can come and go if they want, but they're no longer going to be
They're of no
working
importance.
A-list important royals.
Come on now, dog.
They have lost their importance. They don't mean anything. The country wasn't that overjoyed. I didn't hear many people go, "This is amazing."
I don't think the
they're
country
here."
really cares very much.
They didn't. And the thing that I must say is the country didn't react one way or the other. It was, oh, they're here, okay. But
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
the way they kind of came in and went was a huge signal that I don't think we'll see them here much at all.
And what made me laugh, Isabel, was they arrived on a massive private jet from California, these two eco-warriors.
Whose was it,
constantly preach. Well, it'll be... I mean,
It'll come out.
They've used
whose it
Elton's
was.
a lot, they've used the Clooney's a lot, who knows, somebody, right? But it's the utter hypocrisy, once again, preaching about carbon footprint, always using private
Same
jets.
every time. Same.
Here we go again.
And funny enough, it's the common link between all the people who got booed was hypocrisy. The British public will forgive a lot of things, but they won't forgive brazen hypocrisy.
Yeah, right.
To be fair on them, they did actually keep a relatively low profile,
behaved
didn't
themselves,
they?
they
And
did.
you know, you said they discovered their C list. I mean, they asked to be taken off the list. You know, they wanted to be out of the working circulation. So I think it could have gone worse. You know, I don't think they overshadowed it.
No, they
No, no
You know,
question.
Of course,
They didn't.
No.
people took pictures of them, but they did behave quite well.
Okay.
There was no impact.
I wanna
It made
play-
no impact.
I just want to play a clip, first of all, of this is the Queen on the closing moments of the Platinum Jubilee on Sunday, because we weren't sure if she'd even make it. She was there at the start. I was by the palace when she came out on the Thursday. It was an amazing moment. And then she just sort of vanished from sight. And we thought that maybe we wouldn't see her again. And then you suddenly saw the flag moving on the palace roof, and you realised, fantastic. And then you thought, go on, out you come.
That doesn't make sense.
And out came the star of the show, the star of any show she's ever at. And she came out, and I just thought, if we can listen to a bit of the sound here, I just thought this was so moving.
It gives you goosebumps.
It really does.
You don't know.
Glory! That was a scene, and then, of course, the crowd had burst into God Save the Queen, which was incredibly evocative and emotional, I felt. Fact. Isabel, I mean, it's hard to overstate the importance of this Queen to this country, or the impact that we're going to have when she's no longer here.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm not a massive monarchist, but I found the whole thing weirdly moving. And it is, because it sort of feels like it's a bit of a goodbye. I know that sounds a little bit mawkish.
Well, it's the last Jubilee that we'd better have for her.
In reality, she is not well. We know that.
Yeah.
And, you know, when the palace says she's experiencing some discomfort, we know that really means she's in a very great deal of pain.
Are you sure about that?
And I think when she does sadly pass, there is going to be a huge amount of national soul searching.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, she has held everything together,
Yes.
real concerns about the future of the Union and the Commonwealth.
I totally agree. Grace, I know you're not a massive monarchist. In fact, you spent most of the weekend,
Republican.
according to your Instagram feed, at a wild festival where you were painting your fingernails fluorescent green.
What do you mean by that?
You're not a fan, Piers.
Which I thought was a tribute to what the Queen wore, actually, on the Sunday night.
Yes,
but
yeah, I was
clearly I
informed ahead of
misjudged
time
you.
and coordinated.
But even as someone who's not that into the monarchy, can you appreciate what this woman has done for the country?
I have basically no opinions about them as people. I don't really follow, you know, the ins and outs of the monarchy. I don't think I should have to follow what goes on within this family,
No.
this dynasty that kind of rules our country from behind the scenes.
What?
What I do think, though, is that when the Queen does sadly die, we will enter into a national conversation about whether or not this is an institution that we should have as part of our, you know, constitution, as part of the way that our country works. It is very strange that we have a family whose, you know, marriages, weddings, births, dramas, we're all constantly invested in understanding as though they're kind of Kardashians or something.
Right.
That they're in charge of our politics, of our government. Ultimately, this is our head of state. I think that when the Queen, who everyone, you know, loves and who's been in charge for a very long time, does go, and we have this array of pretty uninspiring potential successors, people are going to start thinking, is this what we really want?
Right. You are missing, in my view, the rising superstar of the royal family, and it's this little guy.
He is.
Louis.
He's amazing.
Whose facial expressions over the 4 days got increasingly hilarious. And who clearly began to seize his moment. And in fact, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge issued a statement tonight on Twitter thanking everybody and saying that we all had a fantastic time, especially Louis.
That doesn't make sense.
Don't you think, though, that it gave people confidence that this is the family that
Yes.
will be here
Yeah.
after the Queen
Yeah.
is no longer here?
And by the way, very deliberately, that last scene on the last night, and everyone was singing God Save the Queen, but she had chosen for that
Are you sure about that?
sort of iconic moment of the end
That
of the
last
Jubilee.
picture.
That this was the family
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is now the streamlined
That's the way it's gonna
royals.
be.
These
Yeah.
are the two next monarchs,
Yeah.
potentially 3 next monarchs, and that's the way it will
But
be.
Charles has said for a long time that he's going to cut down the
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
are actually on payroll and that represent the family. It's
What?
going to be cold. And the thing is, I think that the royal family brings so much to this country.
Fact.
I mean, you look at all the people from all
The
over
tourists,
the
I
world.
mean, I think
came,
they
the tourism,
they don't actually cost us anything.
the
The great
merchandise
myth
that
is
was
they cost us
sold.
money.
I think if we were going to make a kind of coherent economic argument as to how we construct our head of state, we could probably make a better one for saying, I don't know, have a presidential system or have
What, and
some
get our
sort
own
of...
version of Joe Biden?
Nice.
Well, I mean, no, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be the same as that. You would
I'm
have
just putting it
a
out
head
there.
of
I think
state.
I think I'd rather have
who
the
would
Queen.
just be responsible for kind
I
of.
think I'd rather have the Queen.